Their goal is to bring you a podcast that sounds more like everyone else than anyone else.
We need to accept the fact that we are like every other podcast.
We want to be special, but we're not quite there yet.
It's the Zennial Odyssey podcast with Remy and Bobby Rocks.
Back to the XOP, everybody. Much like the last episode, Remy is working. He's doing his day job. Again, I'm on vacation, so I can do this whenever the fuck I want to. But I'm joined by a guest, another great friend. I know recently we had Mr. Steve Hayward, aka Goonie, on. And now we get a good friend of mine, Mr. Jason Cox. Coxie, welcome to the Odyssey.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, wonderful. So my big thing about the show is I view an Odyssey's like an adventure. It's all that. Every episode is a standalone. Every episode should be unique. Everybody that's on should have a unique perspective. And I think you fit the bill right here with that.
Yeah, I definitely have unique perspectives on things.
You do, yes.
I'd like to say myself as out of the norm of regular run-of-the-mill people.
I think first and foremost, when I think of you as somebody. So I want to give you if you want, you can give a little background here on yourself. Work, your career, what you've done with your life. I know you've been in the military.
I have, yes. So, born in 1984 in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Grew up in East Bridgewater. Went to East Bridgewater High School. I first moved to East Bridgewater when I was 8. So, grew up starting right in the center of town almost. That was where those were my stomping grounds. And then once I turned 18, I joined the Marine Corps and diesel mechanic there, deployed a couple times, came home, then moved to Arizona, went to culinary school in Arizona, out there with Boston Mike. We call him Arizona Mike, but people out there call him Boston Mike.
You're talking about Mike Burke?
Mike Burke.
Yeah.
So once finishing up culinary school, I came back to Mass and popped around different jobs here, there, and everywhere, and ended up being a veteran service officer for a town in the South Shore. And that's where I really kind of felt I found my calling in life, in a career, is by helping people. Yeah, so working as a veteran service officer, I was helping people like myself to obtain, I call it entitlement, because you sacrificed a piece of your body or mind to your government, and, you're entitled to that. So working as a veteran service officer, I really enjoyed my job. And then I kind of didn't. So I picked up a position at Volunteers of America, a local nonprofit, and I'm still helping veterans. I guess I can talk about it here.
Yeah. I always say to people, this is a safe space.
I've never been on a podcast before.
Yeah. So for me,
I've been on a radio show before.
Yes, I know. You used to get a Facebook Live.
I used to have a little radio show with Mike Kyla Brito, current Fall River veteran service officer.
Oh,
yeah. We had a little radio show, and I have ADD and I lost interest. It was kind of a hike for me from middle. It was a little bit of a drive. I like being on the show. It was fun.
So I guess where we can jump off with your work with veteran services. So what exactly do you mean when you're talking about veteran services?
The biggest benefit is service-connected disability. And it doesn't even matter if you deployed or not. It's all basis on your military history. What were you exposed to? Mm-hmm. Essentially, you were exposed to things. Doesn't matter if it's an element or a chemical or an experience. You're still exposed to something. If you're exposed to trauma, if you're exposed to loud noises, that's probably the biggest disability that comes across the desk of a VSO is hearing loss. Hearing loss or tinnitus. Yep. And it's the easiest way to get someone service connected.
So that's like getting them the foot in the door?
It's just getting the foot in the door. You might just get 10%. It's a little extra coin in your pocket. And you get eligibility to VA healthcare.
Which is huge.
Which is huge for some people. Mm-hmm. I use VA healthcare. Does me right. I'm still here. I used VA healthcare a lot for mental health. Mm-hmm. I had a shitty point in my life.
Was that in the military, or are you talking just in general?
This is years after the military. My first wife was pregnant with Daniel. Mm-hmm. I think it was even before that, like 2011. I think that was the year that I first went to the VA, like in pretty good mental health crisis.
Really?
Yes. Post-traumatic stress, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It's called post-traumatic for a reason, because you go through a traumatic event, and then after the traumatic event, it could be moments after, it could be hours after, days after, it could be years after. But I first noticed my first like PTSD symptom when I first got home the second time in 2006.
That was after you were in Iraq, right?
I went to Iraq in 2004 into 2005 and then again in 2006. When I got home in 2006, they didn't have room for me in the barracks. So I couldn't stay on base. All I had was my carry-on, which luckily enough, I had some civilian clothes in it.
Yeah.
And I had to stay at a friend's house outside of base. I stayed there the night. She had to go off to work. And then I'm to myself. 24 hours before, I'm in Iraq, or at least Kuwait, with all of my gear, my weapon, everyone from my unit that I've been with for the last 9 months.
And is it fair to say you've adjusted to the fact that when you're in a unit, it's not quiet in the sense of like civilian life quiet, right? Yeah.
No, it's not quiet.
So would you say it's like drastic? It was like drastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Drastic change. Yeah.
There's nothing, but I don't know. I never went to college and I was never in a frat. So I guess that's the closest thing you could possibly compare it to, but times it by 1,000 because all those guys and gals that you deploy with, when shit hits the fan, they're all supposed to be backing you and you back them. And it's just the way it is.
Yeah, the famous I got your six.
And then 24 hours later, I'm in an apartment by myself. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. So I walked down the street. I probably walked 3 miles to the mall that was like the San Diego Mall or some shit, or the San Clemente Mall or some shit. And I go there and I'm just like, all right, there's people in here. Okay, so there's people around. And then I started to see like, those aren't my people. Those are obviously a threat. And I'm sweating bullets. Like I'm visibly sweating. My shirt's getting soaked. And it's like,
cold sweat.
I gotta get the fuck out of here. No, I was on fire.
Okay.
I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here too. So I go back and it's like, I don't really remember much, but yeah. So that was probably the first one I can recall. I was within 24 hours of being in Iraq. So fast forward, I don't know, 10 years, 10, 15 years. I needed mental health therapy. And I needed it pretty bad. And, I guess so long story short, the VA's done me good, over-medicated at a particular time. And then I started experimenting with cannabis.
Do you want to talk about that?
Let's fucking talk about that, my friend. So growing up, I never smoked pot. I might have smoked it once. And that was like Brockton Brown shit.
I was there the first time you got high. Yeah.
I don't really remember getting high, but I just remember an experience of like not really enjoying that.
We were going to see Jerry Cantrell at the old Lupos in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember going there.
And Katya? Because we stopped at Cumberland Farms.
We stopped at Cumberland Farms, and there was Tatiana.
And you were like, I am so fucking wasted right now.
I'm so fucking wasted right now.
And then
Tatiana.
And then we were on the highway, and you had to piss.
Yep, I had to piss. I was with Mark.
Yep.
And I was like, hey, Mark, can you please pull over? I really got to go. And he's like, no, we're almost there. And I told him, and I'm paraphrasing, it's either you pull over or I piss my pants right now. And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm not joking. I don't have a smile on my face or a smirk. It's like deadpan look at him and tell him if he doesn't pull over, I'm going to piss in his car. So he pulled over.
So that was your Brockton Brown experience.
That was my Brockton Brown experience. And didn't really hit me in a good way. And then I go into the military, and then while being in the military, I'd have more exposure to hard drugs than being in the outside world. I had multiple occasions to do cocaine while in the Marine Corps.
Really?
Yes.
Was that on base or deployed or both?
On leave outside of base.
Oh, okay. All right.
I never had the opportunity to do it like in my barracks room, but it's just out in parties and stuff, like out in town. But I never did it then. And I do believe in fate and destiny, and you're traveling along a path, and you have to make particular choices to stay on that. Like I could have easily completely fucked my life up. I had multiple opportunities to do so, but to do that.
If you'd like my 2 cents on cocaine, I feel like cocaine is a very overrated drug.
It probably is. I've never done it, so I have
First off, if you get terrible kind, you get the drips. So you get like a post-nasal drip.
Post-nasal drip.
And it tastes disgusting.
Right.
And then it goes numb. And then you get a little bit of the high feeling, but it lasts 15 minutes. So by the time you start to enjoy it, it's over.
Really?
And I once said to somebody, that's it? And they said, well, that's why you do more. And I said, well, this is stupid.
Right.
I
Like,
could just
why
smoke weed and I'm
continue-
good for 45 minutes.
Right. I'm sure the good stuff's good.
Oh, yeah.
Sends you into another fucking land, but...
Yeah, but let's get back to your
So
experience with
about
cannabis.
3 years ago, 5 years ago, I tried it and I really wasn't getting it. And then 3 years ago, I committed myself to like flower, like the real fucking deal, the shit you smoke.
For people who, because there are people that...
Oh, okay.
No, there are people outside of not just Massachusetts, but there's people outside of where marijuana is recreationally legal. Yeah, if you've never been into a dispensary, a legal dispensary, either medicinal or recreational, I mean, it's referred to as flower.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. That's what I call it. I know I'm a nerd for saying flower.
No, you're not. You're following the lingo that's said inside of a dispensary. Now, what's your preferred method of taking cannabis?
Smoking through a bubbler pipe.
Oh, okay, that makes sense because the water takes the harshness off
takes the particulates out,
Yep.
and I get clean smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I can smoke a joint. I can smoke a pipe, but I just prefer not to.
Yeah.
Because it just hits me right in the throat. So I like a water bubbler.
So what is your preferred, do you have a preferred strain?
Northern Lights.
Northern Lights?
If I could, the dispensary had Northern Lights once, and I bought a lot of it. I just like it. It's just it's an old strain. It's been around forever. Mm-hmm. It's not mutated. It's not mixed into something else to make something else. It's just like it's a novel cannabis strain. When I first started my journey, I stuck to indicas. Hybrid, indica heavy hybrids. Is now that I'm 3 years in, I've been kind of gradually going towards indica leaning hybrids. I have smoked sativas, and I don't like them because I've got paranoid on them and I get jittery. And I think that's because of...
Which one's more THC dominant?
Sativas.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you can get a higher THC sativa than you can indica. But the indica, I like the indicas because they just chill me the fuck out.
I was going to say one is more CBD heavy, one is more THC heavy. So
right.
So sativas
are
THC or a sativa more CBD?
No, sativas you can get a higher THC level out.
Okay.
But sativas are good because it gives you energy. Like if you smoke it to the end of the night, you don't want to move. You want to chill the fuck out. Mm-hmm. So that's when I smoke when I get home from work. And I haven't done this yet, but I need to. Before I even go into the house, just go out to the garage, take one drag, and then go in the house. Because I've been going in raw into the house. And it's summertime. It's the end of summertime. Kids are fucking stir crazy. You walk in the house, they're up your ass. And, I don't like walking into a house like that. It is what it is. It's a product of my own fucking dominion, I essentially have 4 children at home. While I was with my first wife, I had Daniel. He is going to be 9, which is fucking mind-blowing.
Yes.
And so I have Daniel half the time of the week. And I met this lovely woman from Acushnet, Massachusetts, Caitlin, in which I am to marry September 10th. I met this lovely woman with 2 children.
I was going to say, she has 2 children. So you had a child from a pre-existing marriage. She had 2 children from just a pre-existing marriage or relationship?
Pre-existing relationship.
All right. And then you both have a child together. And
then we both had one together. It was like, holy shit, we're already outnumbered with children. Let's have another.
You should at least aim for like 2 more just to start a band.
All right, fine. Well, that's actually physically impossible because while Wyatt was cesarean removed from Caitlin, they went in and not only tied her tubes, cut them and cauterized them. So she ain't having any more babies. And that's fantastic. It really fucking is. So, so 4 kids. So that's enough. But Wyatt, he's a good little boy. He's a good little boy. Handsome, as cute as a button that boy is.
Who does he get his looks from?
Me. He looks just like, as like a baby, he looked just like me as a baby. And then he always looked like me, which I think the people were just associating body types. We're just kind of like just short and fat.
I was going to say built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah. So I think people were saying he looks like me.
As a complete side because I am also a brick shithouse. Do you know how wonderful that has been in my career? So I do talk about what I've done in my career on here. I am bound by HIPAA law, so there's certain things I just know. I know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
What being appropriate. So yeah, I worked with people who also had PTSD, a lot of people who had experienced the most violent and horrific upbringings you could imagine. I've actually gone as far as to say it, like stuff you would hear about, because I would also be a co-leader in group therapy, stuff that makes you lose your faith in humanity type of stuff.
Yeah.
And what comes along with that sometimes is that they have to get restrained for their safety or your safety. But some of these people are just fantastic. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of bull rushing.
Okay.
They'll try to bull rush you. And so somebody tried to bull rush me once and they literally bounced off me because I planted my back leg.
Right. You see them coming. They're pretty blatantly obvious that
So I didn't move and they hit the floor and then it was like... And then they got up, and then there was like a momentary like
I fucked up.
But then there was swinging, and then at that point it's like, all right. I got a lot better as I got along in my career. I don't take it personally. Like those people, most of the people when they get to that point have checked out. They have gone to a place that nobody should ever have to go to in their head. So, and when they come back, it's a real vulnerable time for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the hardest thing. That's where I got PTSD. Because in that work, you don't like, you work with people with PTSD, you leave with your own PTSD.
Yeah. You've told me stories.
Yeah. So I know we have talked about, now I have been a cannabis connoisseur.
Yes.
For a long time. I also prefer CBD heavy strains. And one of my favorite things I've talked about with you off the air, but I've talked about with other people too, is that I'm pretty sure in my teens that it saved my life.
Really?
Yeah, because this is the only way I can describe it. I had a very loud mind.
Okay.
So my mind was always going, but it's always like loud thoughts, always heavy things. And one of my favorite things is when I would get high, it's like literally my mind just went like, shh.
That's exactly what it does for me.
Right?
Like what I was talking about earlier, walking into a hell house, kids bouncing off the walls, bouncing off you. If I can just lower myself.
It's a normal thing for anxiety to kick in then. But
yeah,
I mean, if you have.
When you're already going in, you're going in hot already.
Yeah.
Not even like angry, just spun up. When you walk into a hell house, it's just I just go from 0 to 100. So I need to go into the garage, just rip one.
Yeah, just get yourself get that one.
Take a deep breath, let it all out, and walk in the house.
Yeah.
Because I drank a salsa before I came here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
And, it just brings me down.
No wonder you look so mellow. Now, is cannabis the only thing you do?
No, it isn't.
This is a safe space. You can remember it's a safe space.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because I literally just got my my psilocybin mushrooms, and my plan is to start microdosing. I took my first dose on Monday of 0.1 grams. I have a little coffee grinder that I took 2 mushrooms and put in there, ground them up. I should have only done 1. I have a shitload, like it's really not that much, but not much goes into a milligram. Measured it out on my little jeweler's scale, put it into a capsule, and
and this is why I especially wanted my friend Remy to be on here, because he's been microdosing for a long time.
I would love to have picked his brain.
And so one thing that he does is he makes tea, and then he puts in a little bit, grinds it up, and puts in a little and filters it that way.
Yeah, I've read about that. I heard about lemon teching.
What's up?
Where you take your dose, ground up, or however you want to do it, ground up, put it in a teacup or whatever, and then squeeze lemon juice on it, like a lemon's worth of juice.
Okay.
And mix it up, let it sit there. And the beauty of it is the lemon juice, the acid in the lemon juice, it converts the psilocybin to psilocybin, which is the direct enzyme that blasts your serotonin receptors.
Yep.
So your body, if you just ate the mushrooms, and I guess you do it with tea. I don't know if the tea's acidic.
It depends. Sometimes he drinks green tea.
Yeah. Or it just kind of cooks it up a little.
Yeah.
So it's easier for your body to digest. Because I haven't experienced this before. I haven't taken a significant dose either. I've only taken that 1.1 gram. Did you get nausea from it?
Yes.
Eating the psilocybin on its own?
Yes.
So I suppose by heating the mushroom up or getting it.
I have a great psilocybin story.
Let's hear it.
From the old neighborhood, as I call it. So where we grew up in East Bridgewater, there are pockets in the town. I think like any town, there's pockets where rich people live. There's pockets where middle class Americans live. There's pockets where lower middle class live, and then there's places like the Pond.
And then there's places like the Pond.
Which just exist out of time in reality. So we were at a party once, and somebody had brought shroom capsules. So they had brought capsules that contained ground up psilocybin. And there was this one person, they're not from East Bridgewater, they're from locally. I will spare them the embarrassment of this, of saying their names. So so if you take a capsule, it doesn't matter if it's shrooms. Just think of anything. Think of Advil. Think of acetaminophen, Tylenol.
Right.
It's going to take 40 minutes for you to feel the effects.
Yeah.
So a shroom capsule is going to operate relatively similar to that.
Right.
So this young man got very disappointed with the fact he didn't get an instant. So he thought he just wasted his money. So he decided to drink a bottle of vodka.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, not just Rubinoff.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So
That's in a plastic bottle.
Yeah, when you get a vodka in a plastic bottle, there's nothing's good going to come out of that. You know, it's like I always thought about this with Poland Spring vodka, because I'm like, when I think Poland Springs, I think water.
I don't think I've ever had Poland Springs vodka.
So by this point, now naturally he's really hammered.
Naturally,
and then the shroom capsule hits. We were out at a woods party, so there's fire going on. All this. He cannot speak. He can make noises. He is dead weight. We're trying to get him to, somebody had a shed that they had really made this shed awesome. It had electricity. They put couches in there. So we want to get him there to just sleep it off. He's covered in his own piss and vomit. And when I'm talking vomit, I mean, I look back at it and I go, how did I put my hands on this person?
Right.
So a good friend of mine, someone you know too, Jeremy Cady.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so no, when he had a wagon, he backed his wagon up to the edge of the forest.
I remember Jeremy Cady having a wagon.
Yeah, so he backed it up to the edge of the forest, and we were going to put him in the back of that to drive him because we can't carry him. And so a couple other people, because we're all fucked up on different things. So finally, somebody I'm with, who unfortunately has passed away because of drugs, because they went down the other road of drugs. So they got frustrated and they were just they said his name and they were like, what the fuck? At this point, he's laying face up on his back.
Okay.
And this person fucking stomped him on his chest. I was in shock of how hard he stomped him on his chest because he was just so frustrated with him.
Oh, wow.
And he let out a whimper. And I'm like, that's the first noticeable noise of a human being that he's made in the last hour. Long story short, we get him to the shed. This party goes on till 6 a.m. and he emerges from nowhere and he's fairly normal now.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's just you could see the vomit cakes on him.
Oh, boy.
And we're just joking with him and we're like, yeah, you went in a bad place. And he told us that we all look, the reason he wasn't really answering us is because we all look like monsters to him.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But after that, this ties into the story. When you asked me a couple weeks ago if I'd ever done mushrooms.
Right.
Now, most people, if someone asked them, would say that's a yes or no question. And they would say a yes or no response.
Right. Well, no, you're Bob.
Yeah, I'm Bob. So I got to tell a story. And my story was the winter of 2003 in the South Shore of Massachusetts. And somebody thought it was a great idea, and it really was pretty genius, to make these the chocolates, like Christmas chocolates,
right?
Like the Santa or the snowman, they're wrapped in the tinfoil,
right?
And they would put 2.5 grams,
2.5 in each.
Yeah. So somebody got me one of those. I went to a party. I was around people I didn't really know. And I really didn't, I got vertigo. I noticed that. That's the one thing I do remember. Everything kind of, it was almost like someone pulled the curtain back on my eyes.
Really?
So my peripheral vision got extended.
Wow.
But it was kind of freaking me out.
Right.
But that was really it. I didn't see anything. I was just, I was on a couple of drugs at the time too. So.
Right. Hard to get a baseline when you've got other things going on.
Yeah. But. Yeah, my go-to was marijuana, anything cannabis related.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got away from that for a while. I also, because we have discussed this as well, I also have my own mental health concerns, and I do take medication for it. I appreciate the medication because I don't get the dips.
Right.
Because,
keeps you consistent.
Yeah. So I've talked about it. I've talked about it to you. I've talked about it. I haven't right out said what I have. I have, it's called persistent depressive disorder. Some people call it depression light. If you actually have ever experienced it, you would say that's not really a fair way to characterize it.
Yeah.
The way I can describe it is, especially for us in the Northeast, like wintertime.
Seasonal depression disorder.
Yeah, when the sun sets at like 4 p.m,
it sucks.
and it sucks. So just picture being like that every day of the year.
That sucks too.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have those dips like where I did have occasions where it was tough to get out of bed some mornings.
Well, yeah, when you're that low, it's easy to dip lower.
But my normal was just existing in a state that was like that. So when I was heavily doing cannabis,
was this in high school?
yes.
It was?
It started when we were in junior high. That's when I first really started to notice it.
Really?
Yeah. And it wasn't
Because
as extreme.
I didn't, well, I was a fucking kid too, so what the fuck did I know? But I
Are you talking about when I would have my disappearing acts?
Well, no, just you in general. I didn't have that perception of you.
Well, because I put on the face.
The perception of you I had was a little bit of crazy, has his shit together, reserved, methodical.
I'm all those things. It's just when I say put on the face, when people have like, especially depression, when you have depression, you quote unquote, you put on the face.
Right.
And that face is that nothing's wrong, nothing's fine. And that got me into trouble when I worked doing trauma-informed care with PTSD individuals, because people just were like, oh yeah, my nickname was Bobby Rocks. So it's a nickname that's carried with me off and on. But yeah, that was like a caricature, and people were just like, oh yeah, we could throw more at you because you're fine. And like, no.
Yeah. I'm actually not.
Yeah, by the end of that job was when I got on medication.
Okay.
Because I actually had not just having thoughts of ending my life, I actually started to form a plan. And that's when I got freaked out. And I went to my doctor, and I know this because I work in healthcare. So I knew that it would do me no justice if I wasn't completely raw to my doctor.
Right.
But I also knew that there was a chance that he would have me sent away for a 72-hour evaluation.
Right.
From what I said. And my doctor listened to me. He told me I was brave. Genuinely said, I think you're brave for I think you have courage. You're having the courage to come and talk about those things that people don't like to talk about.
Right.
And he goes, and we got a lot of options I want to go over with you. But before we do that, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. He says, I would like to let you leave here today. Can I trust you that you will not hurt yourself? And I said, yeah, because I didn't. Like, the way I can describe it to you, this is my experience with having thoughts. So for me, it started with a casual, I wonder what would happen if I wasn't here anymore. That's how a lot of suicidal stuff starts. Then it went to the first time I actually thought about a plan. I actually had a whole body reaction of the opposite, like fight or flight kicked in. And it was like, what are you doing? Yeah. But the more that I would start to have those thoughts, the less of a reaction I would have. And that terrified me. Yeah. That terrified me.
You were rationalizing with your own brain.
Yep.
Right.
And I said, yeah, that was right there. Now granted, I still dabble in cannabis. I don't dabble as much as I did in my teen years, but this was before I knew kind of like what was going on with my body. So I was just recreationally using drugs, and hey, look at that. Hear that, Friday afternoon specials? You were wrong. Saved my life.
Yeah, same.
Yep. I know. I don't know. So you've talked about PTSD, because I have PTSD. I do have residual PTSD from my job. So like if I hear a loud noise, that's for me, it's loud noises.
Yeah. Because you had to.
If I heard a loud noise at my job.
If you heard a loud noise at your job, you would have had to react to it.
Yep. It meant shit was going down. So even at my current job, which is nothing like that, I could literally hear a loud noise, and I just get triggered. I can feel.
You just get that little you get that little that flash of heat that goes through your body.
Yep, and then I can actually feel my heart.
Yeah,
starting to pump at a rate where it's like getting me ready to react. One thing I learned through my training is I learned how to control that. But the problem is just because you can control it doesn't mean that physiological aspects of your body
aren't changing too.
Right. So it takes me a long time to come down physiologically from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot better.
Do you but
this
is kind of a tough one.
I smoke every day before I go to bed.
Yeah, that's fine. I've learned mindfulness. That's the only way I can put it. What I mean by that is I've learned other things because I think it's good to have like a toolbox. I call it like a tool chest of things. So like one thing, working on the podcast, I find that relaxing. Like on my laptop.
See, I'm a little bit off. I'm getting a little bit of anxiety from it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why so?
I don't know.
Why do you think it is?
I don't know.
Interesting.
It's not something I do every day. Like I don't have the longevity to talk.
Oh, okay, I got you. So like at some point you're kind of like,
Yeah, I'm like I thought a couple times, like, I wonder what time it is. I didn't want to look at my watch and be like, but I'm just gonna.
no, you looked at your watch. Just so you know, I typically keep episodes around 40, 45 minutes. So we're right in that window.
Okay.
So
All right, good.
So for example,
I didn't know the expectation either.
No. So I really, since you are the guest, to me, you're the one who drives the episode.
Okay.
I'm really here just to facilitate.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll have these sidebar things where I can
I don't
contribute.
want to interrupt you.
Yeah, but I'm the same way when you or anyone is talking. I don't want to interrupt you either. But I will ask you this: Would you like to do this again?
I would. Now that I have the expectation of 45, I forgot the 45 minutes. I was like, and then my anxiety started going. It's like, fuck.
And I think it's
we're going to talk for like 3 hours. This is
no.
This is going to be a Joe Rogan experience.
No. I keep it. So when I first started, like season 1, the earlier episodes are around 35 minutes.
Yeah.
But I found that
45 minutes is a good.
Well, it's fine. 45 is a sweet spot.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah. And honestly, there's times where I record for an hour and I cut out like 15 minutes.
Oh yeah,
because it's just. And all that stuff. I cut that stuff out. But other than that, like there's sometimes where it goes like nonsensical and it's like, all right, well, we don't fucking need that thing on here.
Yeah.
But next time, absolutely, definitely I can have Remy on here.
Yeah.
And you guys can just have a field day about
that'd be fun because I have been doing a
psilocybin.
I have been doing a lot of research on psilocybin, and it all started with that documentary on Netflix that Caitlin told me about. She started watching How to Change Your Mind.
Yep.
It was a 4-part documentary on psychedelics.
I don't mean to cut you off, but literally because research is showing us that when done in reasonable amounts, psychedelics can actually repair the brain.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. Like, are you serious?
Yep.
I had no idea. And I don't think I'm an ignorant person. I feel like I know most common sense things. Is that like something that is
I put it into this category,
or do people need to hear about this?
We live in a country that refused to do research on marijuana for decades,
right? And
psilocybin, mushroom, psychedelic, it's the same thing. So we live in a country because of the taboos that were put in place on these drugs,
racially driven
taboos. Yeah, that too. Oh, Remy and I have gone on. We haven't done an episode on it, but we do touch upon the war on drugs. It's a terrible thing.
It is absolutely disgusting. Mm-hmm. So I watched the miniseries on LSD, psilocybin, MDMA, and then peyote. Watching the MDMA episode was really alarming to me because it hit home because the majority of treatment is for people with PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes
so. Is this realm that I've jumped full force into after learning about like a week ago? Is this like common knowledge amongst people, or is it not?
It is for the people who recreationally partake in it, but
like the common non-pot smoking person.
No,
do they know about this?
No.
Holy shit! So people
they still buy into the propaganda that you will get pregnant or end up in jail for the rest of your life. And you'll be a murderous person who kills people.
I heard about ecstasy years ago, and it never entered my realm of friends that I know of.
Oh, I've been around people on ecstasy. I hate it. I hate it. As someone who never did it, I hated it.
I haven't had it.
You know why? Here's a good example. Let's say I'm standing next to you, and Jason, I just need you to hold my hand. Why? Because it just feels like the right thing to do right now.
Yeah, the cuddle puddle.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's like a sensory thing, like literally the sensation of holding a hand or your clothing.
Yeah.
Like, do you know, have you ever seen the movie Get Him to the Greek?
I don't think so.
Like Russell Brand,
no,
he's a musician. So there's a scene where they're on some kind of drug and there's a furry wall and they just say, oh, just stroke the furry wall. It'll make everything better. It's like that.
Right.
It's like that.
But seeing it work in a clinical setting, holy shit. Like I think we're at a pinnacle of like mental health crisis in this country.
Oh, we've been there.
Yeah. The shit that they're pushing out isn't working anymore. Mm-mm. Our bodies are accustomed to it, and it's blocking the fun shit. Yeah, SSRI.
There's no balance. You're right.
It's blocking the serotonin that I need to be happy. Mm-hmm. But it's also blocking the serotonin that will throw me to 100. It's the same enzyme.
Yeah.
It's the same hormone. So it takes me from not going to 100, but it also takes me from not like.
I would say if I'm going to jump back into cannabis from a medicinal standpoint, I would probably do it. I'd probably be doing it in a form where I don't feel the high. I just get the benefits.
Yeah, that's why I don't do it during the day. I don't like doing it during the day. But by doing it at night, it's gatewayed me into other perspectives. So people that call cannabis a gateway drug, I absolutely believe it's a gateway drug. It
Just not in the way that they mean
but
it.
not into heroin, cocaine, not into these fucking medicines that the medical community put down on the street and created addicts.
Yep.
Cannabis doesn't take you there. I'm sure there's a percentage that do, but I don't. The vast majority by smoking pot isn't going to make you go do heroin. No. You were already going to do heroin before you smoked pot.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in our brains are wired a certain way, and some people's brains are wired to just want to be a drug addict.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you will become a drug addict. It just means if you go down that road.
But holy shit, fuck. Hopefully, give that person psilocybin in a clinical setting. We can break that.
I tell people all the time, Colorado leads the way.
Absolutely.
Because they've legalized...
they legalized psilocybin.
Yep.
They sell it in the dispensaries, right?
Yep. They really do. It was one of the most...
Well, yeah. It was the first state to legalize marijuana.
Did you ever see the 60 Minutes that they did on...
I don't.
It's fantastic. So they go into a medicinal and it's professional. That was the first time I was like, wow, this is so professional. So everyone had they had a plant. It was a strain they wanted. It did have their name, but it had them as a patient, their patient ID number.
Right.
And then they went into the actual floor and they showed all the different ways you can ingest cannabis. And then they said, and this one we have here, it was an edible. And they said, this one, you get the benefits of THC and CBD and you don't get the high.
Wow.
And I was mind blown. And then the next clip, the host of 60 Minutes is sitting with a representative of the FBI. And it's like, so in Colorado, they have recreationally legalized marijuana, correct? Correct. But as far as the federal government goes, it's illegal, correct? Correct. So, in the last 5 years since they legalized it, they have generated this much money, correct? Correct. But as far as the federal government goes, that money has been generated legally, correct? Correct. And of that money, they have paid this in taxes, correct? And it was fantastic. Because basically what the FBI agent was saying was, we're using it as a pilot. We're using it as a pilot study. See how it goes. If people in Colorado want to do that, that's fine.
Do you actually believe the federal government is piloting this program?
No. I don't think that's what I think what he meant was we're going to see how it goes in Colorado.
But he had to say it in that way to make it sound like they're running the fucking show.
Of course he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, we're piloting. Like, fuck you.
Do you know what? Because you know what my takeaway from that was? They're paying you. The Colorado is paying you taxes.
Right.
Money talks and money talks.
Right. Like, do you want this tax revenue coming in or do you not?
Yeah. There's only one state in our country that I feel has gone too far.
Which one?
Oregon.
What are they doing in Oregon?
They've decriminalized everything.
Everything?
Yes.
They've like hard street drugs too. Well, I've heard that theory. I've heard people say that theory. Just decriminalize everything and it take the taboo away.
Yeah, actually, Remy is half Portuguese. He does have family that lives in Portugal, and he said that's what they did in Portugal a long time ago. And it worked.
Yeah.
He said it takes away the taboo. It takes away a good way to describe it, especially in our country, is everywhere else in the world, you would be like, it's acceptable for like a 13-year-old to like drink at dinner.
Well, alcohol is on a whole nother fucking level, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what we as a society have
have allowed that to say that alcohol is the most destructive thing that we have created. We created alcohol. It doesn't occur naturally, does it?
No.
Yeah, maybe
certain types can.
Yeah,
like fermenting.
Right. Like things can ferment. Yeah, like an apple can ferment. Okay.
Yeah, meads.
Right. Mead would have been.
I don't know. Mead's maybe not even natural, but I mean
a piece of fruit can ferment. You eat it and get intoxicated.
Yes.
Like, oh shit, what happened here? But what a destructive thing.
You'll be happy to know I've gotten you up to 53 minutes, even though you said
I know. You got me engaged again.
I know. All right. So I think it's a good time to jump off because we can pick this up the next time you come.
Right.
Yeah. So Jay, thank you very much
Robert,
for coming on.
thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
So, where is this broadcast? Is this broadcasted? Like, what? Okay, so I had to ask myself.
Would you
this
like to
question.
know
what
where
the
this
fuck
is-
is a podcast?
A podcast is a format of radio, essentially, where it's not, some are live, most aren't. Most of the popular ones are pre-recorded, like this one is, and it is streamed on the internet.
Okay, so why is it called a podcast? Did it have anything to do with an iPod, or is it just like a pod, like a small, like a self-encapsulated thing?
Episode cast. It's like something. It's
a acronym or
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely a hyperbole.
So specifically, if you're asking, this is available on Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
This is available on Spotify. This is available on iHeartRadio. This is available on YouTube. This is available on through my Facebook page, and it's available through other things too. But I'm just not going to. It's available through probably 11 different.
The internets.
Yes,
you can get it on the internet.
You could also go to my podcast page, and you can get every single episode. Yeah.
Was that called cross-posted?
Yes. So
nice.
So we're operating at a snail's pace now because whatever, if it grows at its own pace, that's fine. Eventually, we will start to promote it a lot larger, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and now you're a part of that.
And now I'm a part of it.
All right. So, Jason, as always, pleasure was all mine. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll try to get Remy to stop working so that he can partake in these conversations again. And until the next time, talk to you later. Take care.
Peace.
On the next episode of the Zennial Odyssey podcast, Remy and Bobby Rox discuss.
A lot of people miss this aspect. So there was a Woodstock 94 that went amazing because it wasn't monetized necessarily.
Yep. They did a great job of giving that backstory to Woodstock 99.
Implying that the girls who had their clothes off,
Victim shaming.
wanted to get fondled.
In the documentary, there were people talking about how they were going to the show, and upon getting in, they took all your food and all your water.
But that was where once the sexualization of women had set in without their consent, it took over.
And then on the morning of day 2, we're not even halfway through this festival, the bathroom's fucked up. The only way I can describe what's about to happen is it's a perfect storm.
I was about to say, what is more boomer than projecting every fucking thing you did wrong onto younger people? I believe if they announced one right now that was like the lineup of the century, I think people just, society I worry that they don't learn.
Find the XOP on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, our Facebook page, or YouTube.